G'day folks, in this week's video we're going to be looking at dual root zone aquaponic grow beds and also show you a bit of our ginger harvest we've got from one we've just pulled out of the bathtub. Also give you a bit of an update on the aquaponics system first, and right at the end we might introduce you to our new family member. So to begin with, we'll give you a bit of a gander at the fish. There's a big friendly fella who's always up at the top. These guys are feeding fairly well at the moment because the water temperature is up around about 21 degrees, which I think is around about 69 to 70 Fahrenheit. There really should be a lot cooler, seeing as we are in winter at the moment, but I do have a couple of heaters just down the side of the tank there, so it is keeping the water a lot warmer, which is costing us, I wouldn't say an arm and a leg, but definitely an arm at the moment. We do have a solar system on the house, but it is keeping the fish on the feed, which is fantastic. This also means that it's keeping the water warmer for the beds, and I have someone at my feet I'll introduce you to later. You can smell the fish cup. The water going into the beds is also a little bit warmer, and I don't know if it's really helping that much, but we have noticed some very remarkable growth on these bok choy. I didn't think they'd be ready until next week, but we have that little fella down there and another one over the other side that we'll be taking off for our dinner tonight. So really impressed with the way it's going. The broccoli we put in, there's 2 plants in every position, and again they've just put on some fantastic growth. So to be honest, I don't know if it's the water temperature helping just the plants put on that little bit of extra growth because it's so warm, or whether it's just because these guys have polished off their feed already and want some more, continuously feeding, just putting the nutrients through the system in winter. Everything just looks to be doing a lot better. We did have a couple of issues with these broccoli over here. We had a load of cluster caterpillars in there, so I did my best to collect as many as I could without squishing them and fed them to the fish. They definitely didn't take long to demolish them, and then I went around and sprayed the whole plant, making sure to get even down to the little developing heads of the broccoli themselves. Hopefully this rain we're getting today won't wash most of it off, because I tried to spray under the leaves because these caterpillars will eat the whole leaf. They'll digest some of that, the bacteria will expand in their belly and knock them over. So fingers crossed, yeah, the rain won't wash it off. Just a quick little wander around here. I did do the water chestnut harvest last week, so if you want to see the aquaponics water chestnut harvest, there'll be a link down in the description. Over here we have our Ahi Amarillo Chili. She's still growing, keep threatening to pull her out, but we haven't quite got there yet. I did pop in some lettuce here in this bed, and they were left in the punnet a little bit too long and dried out, but they look to be going great guns now. They've only been in for about a week or so. This one here I thought I'd actually killed. It's bounced back nicely. And the aloe vera, I still haven't taken that out. I took out one small pup for a mate, but yeah, nothing there yet. So now our quick little updates out of the way, we'll have a bit of a gander at the dual root zone bed. It is basically a bathtub with some clay in it, with 3 pouches with soil. The potato one you may have seen go out the other week. I've just repositioned it, and we've got 2 more pouches in here. I've actually added in some large pot plant bases just for the pouches to sit in so I can pull them in and out. I do have a bit of an issue with some clay balls coming through the holes there, but I'm not overly concerned about that. So as to how these pouches were put together, basically we have a layer of sand down the bottom that comes up roughly between 3 to 4 inches or 75 to 100 millimeters, and then on top of that we have my preferred potting mix, and I've mixed in a handful of activated rock minerals into each pouch. The rock minerals are basically activated with bacteria, so those bacteria will help break down those minerals and make them plant available over time. And that is the potato that went out the other week, and it's looking pretty good. So just around the other side to show you the drain setup here. What we have is a foot valve screen screwed into the top of a bulkhead fitting, and a few bits of perlite down in there. But as you can see, yeah, the water's flowing through nicely, and these clay balls on top are just to stop any nutrient-rich water sitting near the surface and collecting algae. We might have an issue in these trays here, but we'll just see over time. It's a very basic, simple idea. I actually first heard about it from a chap called Steve from the Ponics Aquaponics channel. He does weekly podcasts. He's medicinally herb based, a lot of his content, and he works with a lot of people designing different aquaponic systems, including dual root zones, and the man really knows what he's talking about. This morning I found a recent podcast with Steve. He was on Jack Spirko's Survival Podcast. Absolutely fantastic episode. Steve was explaining how he likes to create a fungally dominant compost and soil mix for growing fruit trees in aquaponics and that sort of thing, and going through the use of labs or lactobacillus bacteria concoctions, ferments I suppose is a better word, and using them in your aquaponic systems. I'd actually like to get Steve on the channel here and had a bit of a chat to him this morning about him critiquing my method here and giving me a couple of pointers, and you folks out there as well, on how you can play with a little bit more dirt in your aquaponic system so you can get the benefits of both, not only the nutrient-rich aquaponic water, but also to the nutrients that you can put in a soil mix, making up your own compost, tailoring it for specific crops even. That sort of thing really does help in developing different medicinal qualities of plants, and also different flavor profiles as well if you want to get right down into it. My channel's more basic, about just setting up and having a crack to begin with, but yeah, Steve's stuff is pretty interesting if you want to look at that, and hopefully he'll come along and have a bit of a chat with us. Just back to the pouches here, I actually did have someone query me and say, aren't I concerned about the soil breaching the barrier with the root pouch and entering the system? No, I'm not, mainly because these root pouches and most of the geotextile style pouches are fairly thick, and if anything comes through, it's going to be a fairly small particle in size. I'm not sure how well that's coming out down there, but that water is very clear, and there's definitely no soil coming out, making it muddy. I think another bonus is also having that sand down the bottom does prevent any of this soil blend from slowly leaching down and being dispersed out through the side when we get torrential downpours. So while I was filming, I figured I might as well plant out these last two pouches, pretty much all along the lines of that potato one there. I'm using some very well chitted potatoes that probably should have gone out months ago, and I'm just going to be digging a small trench, and we're going to pop in two spuds, one on that side there and another, we'll bury him over, just down on this side here, and cover them up. Now to these two, just popping this one down there, cover him up, and do the next one down on this side, and he can go right on the side, cover him up, and there we go. So in a couple of weeks time, what I'll do is I'll come along here and do pretty much all the same as what I'm going to do with this one later on today. Cover it up with a little bit of soil, so any potatoes that form towards the top don't get sunlight on them and turn green, which can actually cause a few toxicity issues for us when we eat them. So that's pretty much all it, and don't have to worry about watering them in or anything because it's raining today. Not only that, they're getting a load of moisture coming up from the bottom in those trays there. Keep in mind, this is a very basic dual root zone system. You can also get things like flow through wicking beds, and Steve mentioned on Jack's podcast growing fruit trees in barrels. So that's enough looking at these little dual root zone pouches here. We'll head on over and harvest the ginger. We have a very wet little man here. Do you want to come and help me harvest some ginger, dude? So this ginger was planted out mid to late November last year, so it's only had around about 6 or 7 months worth of growth. Generally we get roughly 10 months worth of growth out of our ginger plants, so I'm not expecting a bumper harvest from this one here. Generally speaking, we get between 800 to 1,000 grams worth of ginger per rhizome we plant out, so it'll be interesting to see how much we get from this little fella here. So unfortunately the mic wasn't properly plugged in at this point, but I can tell you I was rather impressed by the way the ginger was growing against the side walls of the pouch and was actually bulging it out a little bit. So thanks to my little helper here, we managed to get it out in 3 pieces, which I was pretty chuffed about. So just to give you a bit of a look, that's the mother rhizome right there. This is the newer growth, and what I'm going to do is play archaeologist, dig all this rhizome out, we'll weigh it up, and yeah, we'll see how well it went. So I've given it a bit of a wash and trimmed up some of the roots, and these are the 3 sections we've got. I'm really chuffed with how it's looking so far. What we'll do is we'll weigh it up with the mother rhizome still on, and then we'll weigh it up without the mother rhizome. So I don't know if we can actually make that out in the camera. Hopefully we can. Might zoom in a bit. There we go. I think you can just make it out now. Now to begin with, we'll put the mother section on first, try and balance it. There we go. We're looking at, make sure it's off the table. Yep, 895 grams in these two smaller sections. So all up, it looks like we're at 1.27 kilograms. But as I said, that's with the mother, so we'll just break her off and weigh it again. So just to let you know that this is fairly comparable with what I've grown in aquaponics before. The last aquaponics harvest from this system wasn't as good as this per piece, but in the past, in our old system, we've had some very decent aquaponic ginger harvests. Let's take that bit off there. Just to give you an idea, the mother went in at around about 200 grams. Got to restack this, something's sitting on the board. So we'll turn that piece upside down and then add these two here. So yeah, there we go, bringing in closer. This pile here is just over 1 kilo. I'd say it'd be 1 kilo or just over 2 pounds after we trim off some of these other bits and pieces and let it dry out. As I said previously, this didn't get the full 10-month growing season either, so I dare say that if this did, we would have ended up with around about 1.2-ish kilos. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. Just over 1 kilogram, got to be chuffed with that. So as you can see from this ginger harvest and the previous dual root zone potato harvest we got from this little bathtub bed, I am very impressed with this growing method. I just have to compare this with the last ginger harvest from this grow bed behind me here. That was about a month or so ago. These rhizomes just look so much fatter and so much healthier than the ones from that harvest. So check out that video, link above and down below, if you want to see a bit of a comparison. So yes, mighty stoked with the harvest we've got. And don't forget, if you do want to catch up with Steve and hear him talk about the dual root zone growing method, hit that little subscribe button down there and then jump on over to the bell icon once it appears, and hopefully YouTube will send you a notification. And also too, if you could thumb up this video, leave a comment down below and let us know that you're going to be coming along, that would be fantastic. And while you're at it, share the video around with your other aquaponics mates on different social media platforms and things like that. Really appreciate it. Now, for you folks who want to stick around, I'll give you a bit of an introduction to Jack. To everyone else, I do hope you're all well and happy and your aquaponics is booming, and I'll catch you next video. Cheers folks, and happy growing. So folks, what we have down here is a little Jackie boy who is eating one of my clips that fell off from the shade house over the grow bed. Jack is a little Smithfield cattle dog, or stumpy tail cattle dog. As you can see, he's got a stumpy tail. It's just a genetic thing with these guys. He's a stumpy tail or Smithfield crossed with a border collie. And then we think there may be something else in the mix, because these paws are pretty humongous, aren't they, little fella? But he's got an absolutely gorgeous temperament. He's only been with us for a couple of days so far, and I can tell you he's very inquisitive, likes to hang around with us, and it appears that he's going to be a lap dog. Spends a lot of time in all our laps, and yes, we will be nipping that chewing bits and pieces in the bud, but for the time being we're just letting him get used to us, really, only being day 2, but I think I will take that from you, matey. This little fella was one of 11 pups, if you can believe it. Mum was a stray that she was taken into a shelter, and he was one of the 11 pups that popped out the day after she arrived. So Jackie here is obviously the red form. There is also a blue form of both the Australian cattle dog and the Smithfield, or the stumpy tail. So yeah, there you go, there's Jack. And we'll say goodbye now, won't we, Jack? We'll flap your ears. Bye bye folks. Catch you later all. Hope you're well and happy.